toolbar with nothing behind it.
Okay. All right, Dana. Actually, if you could pass the ball back, I want to show you a tool that's a good tool for some troubleshooting CSS.
All right.
Let me share my desktop here. So I'm just going to open up Firefox, and we're going to go to a new tab and go to your site. Okay. Now, there's a couple options for bringing up sort of a web debugging tools. One is I can hit F12 to bring up, I guess these are called the developer tools, and this works in Firefox and Chrome and Internet Explorer. And I think there's an equivalent, if you're on Mac, I think there's an equivalent for Safari. I'm not sure exactly how you bring it up.
Okay. There's only one problem I have and that's that I'm on the Mac and the F12 key always brings up the dashboard.
Right, right. It might be like a command. I'm not sure exactly what the command would be on a Mac. We could look it up, I'm sure. I think there's like in Firefox, you can go to your menu and click developer, and that will bring this up. And I think inspector, I think, is what. Yeah, well, then now I have two copies of the inspector. There's also an extension for Firefox called Firebug, which is what I like to use. Which is actually, I think, what has come up here, Firebug. And so what I can do with Firebug is I can say right-click on whatever we're having trouble with and inspect element with Firebug. And it sort of, there's the source code in this window and then the CSS over here. And so I can click this and we can see we can see on the right side what CSS rules are being applied. And as you see here, I'm clicking on your toolbar, your div3, and you see there's no CSS that's showing up. And if we look at here at the CSS tab, you see that div3 thing that you're talking about isn't showing up. So I think if we were to view page source, oh, here it is. So I think part of the problem is that there's no such thing as a div3. That's really the only HTML tag that that has numbers like that I'm aware of is the headers, is the H1, H2, H3. But there's no such thing as a div3, and that doesn't. I mean, some browsers might sort of allow you to kind of fudge with that a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure what all the rules are, but in general, let's see. And so if we edit this and we just make this a normal div, and just sort of editing the HTML here on the fly. So now that's just a normal div. And if we were to, what I can do here is I can right-click and add rule. Toolbar. And here I can, border is solid red or whatever background. I forget what your background color was. Blue. Okay, and you could, yeah. Anyway, you get the picture now.
Great. That was very quick troubleshooting, Jacob.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I love these tools.
Yeah.
I've never used these tools before, but wow, incredible how you can troubleshoot with these tools.
Yeah. Moral of the story is use your developer tools or Firebug, and and that can help you dig in and I think my favorite part about Firebug is well, two favorite parts. One is editing CSS and seeing the changes in real time.
Yeah.
You can do this and you can see how things change in real time. The other cool feature in Firebug, when you start doing complicated JavaScript stuff, you can debug JavaScript and kind of step through your JavaScript code line by line and see what's happening and see what's going wrong if you have problems.
Nice.
So that's yeah. This is a key. This is a key tool in the toolbox for any web developer.
Wasn't it Newton, Jacob, that said if you have a tool long enough, you can move the earth?
It was some
Archimedes.
physicist who said if you, it might have been Archimedes. I think you're right. If you have a lever long enough, you can. I think he was more talking about the simple machine that's a lever. But,
but it's a tool. It's in fact a tool that can move the earth. This looks like a tool that can move the earth to me.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Does that help, Dana? Dana, are you all set before we pass the ball back to Jacob? Or
actually, I do. I have the ball already here.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so let's see. Who all do we have?
Oh, well, before you go, Jacob, Brent, can you record this? Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far in our sort of series of webcasts on using less. So I have on the screen right here, we have sort of our little demo page that we've sort of created just to have something to work with as an example. Here is the HTML code that is behind this. And remember, we have a less file. It's a file with a .less extension, and we have that linked in using a link tag, just like we would use to add a CSS file here. Then we have a script, and our script is actually pointing towards a CDN. We could, if we wanted to, we could download this and just host it from our server. But here we're using it for ease. We're just using for convenience. We're using a CDN. And what this script file does is it will take our less code and translate it into CSS, just plain CSS that the browser understands. And so what we have, the less tricks that we've learned about so far. 2 weeks ago, we talked about nesting. So we have this situation where normally you can't do this in CSS, but with less, we can have sort of a rule within a rule. And what this means is, like, for example, what this means is that this rule means any h1 that's inside of an element with class of class A here has these rules, so that if is the equivalent of class A h, typing out a rule here. And that is particularly useful, especially if you have Especially as your site gets bigger and you have more and more complicated CSS rules, you could end up with you could end up with things that have a whole 4 or 5 selectors kind of chained in a row, and it's much easier to do this nesting thing. And even when you only have a couple, even when your CSS is kind of simple like it is here, it can be helpful just to make your code more readable. Then last week we talked about variables. Remember, we define a variable. Variable always begins with an @ symbol, and then the name of the variable, and then the colon, and then the value, and then finally the semicolon to end the line. And then we can reuse this variable in multiple places on the page. And in our example, we wanted to make sure that the border of this element is kind of the same as the background of this other element. So we used variable, and vice versa. So we used variables for these two colors. So you can imagine we have a larger site with where that color appears in several different places, and if we want to change that color, all we have to do is change it in one spot up here where we're defining the variable. And since we use that variable elsewhere, that's it'll change every spot that needs changing. So those are the first two of our less tricks. The third trick that we're going to learn today is called mix-ins. So I'm going to quickly show here on the less website. Again, this is lesscss.org, and I can go ahead and paste this link into the chat box. Okay, so first let's look at mix-ins, and then we'll look at parametric if we have time, which I think we will. So a mix-in is basically just creating sort of a reusable block of CSS rules. So basically what you can do is within a CSS, within a in place of a CSS rule where normally you would say color red, or border 3 pixels red, or whatever. Instead, you can just put the name of another selector, and then anything that applied to that other selector now applies to to the spot where you're using it right now. So for example, let's just to do a simple example, let's see, what do we want to do with our divs here? Maybe we can give them a border radius to curve the edges. So what I could do is I could define a mix-in to say, how about rounded corners, and now I don't actually have any. I don't actually have any thing in my HTML that has this class. Okay, I could, but really the only reason I'm doing this is so that I can reuse this later, and I can just say, oops, rounded corners like that, and use that class. And so anything that anywhere I just use that selector, it sort of reprints these rules. And we'll see if that, okay, that's 4 pixels is not very much, so you might not even be able to see that. Did it actually round the edges? Now, of course, since I use the mix-in, I can change it in one spot, and it'll update all the places in my code that I need it. So what if we make this a little bit more dramatic so we can see it? There we go. Okay, that should be enough so that you can see that how that worked. So really, we just have one rule defined for for one, in this case for the class rounded corners, and then we just reuse that block of code in multiple places. And we could, obviously, if it's just one rule like this, it's not too valuable. But maybe, we could add, other stuff here if we wanted to. I'm not even sure what. What we would put there, maybe. Font size, just to show that we can, yeah, just to prove that can work. Obviously, we'll want to get rid of that in here now. Okay, so that's kind of a simple contrived example. So let's do a sort of a real, sort of a more useful example, and then we'll turn it over to you guys to maybe try using a mix-in on some of your code. So one thing that I've used mix-ins for in the past is for something we call a box shadow. A box shadow is like what you see here, is sort of a little shadow behind behind your div, or behind really anything, any of your HTML elements. This website, which I guess I can paste in the chat box, I just Googled for a CSS Box-Shadow generator. There are a bunch of sites that are like this, that all kind of do the same thing, where you can use this kind of cool user interface to change kind of the details of your box shadow and what it looks like. Looks like you can even change the color to make it darker, lighter, and then you can actually give it color. And so you use this, and there are a lot of sites that do kind of roughly the same thing here, where you sort of use this nice useful interface, and then it gives you the CSS that you would use, that you can paste in, copy and paste into your CSS, or in our case our less file, to accomplish this box shadow. And the slightly tricky thing here is that you see there are 3 different lines, and the reason there are three different lines here are that different browsers support different sort of CSS attribute names. So one of these, I'm actually not even sure which is which necessarily, but I think one of these is Firefox, one of these is Internet Explorer, one of these is Google Chrome. Safari, I'm not sure. Safari may support all, or maybe a couple of them, but anyway, different browsers support different sort of attribute names for a box shadow. So unfortunately, you can't just say box. Maybe someday you'll just be able to say box shadow, and it'll work for every browser. But for now, we need these 3 different lines. in order to create a box shadow. So what I'm going to do is just create a box shadow mixin. And there we go. And then what I can do is on our example here, I think what we'll do just to kind of show how this can be used is I'll add this to class A. Just use the mixin on class A, box shadow, and then maybe I'll use it just on the link in class B. I don't, it doesn't have to be on a, just on a div. It can also be on an A or really on anything else. And that looks kind of funny on that link. So maybe I want to add a little bit of something to that link just to, not quite as, it's still kind of odd. It's a really soft box shadow and kind of spread out, so it doesn't look as good on this small thing, but that's okay. This is just for demonstration purposes. So you can see that's it's as we get more and more, as there are more and more rules here, it's more and more useful to use this mixin. And that's the quick tour of using mixins. I think what we'll do now is if we have a volunteer from the crowd to try maybe updating some of your existing CSS or less code to use a mixin for something, either to add a box shadow or something else. Do we have a volunteer?
Dana or Daniel?
Okay. Looks like Daniel has responded by chat. Daniel, is it okay if I pass you the ball?
Okay.
Okay. All right, you ready there, Daniel? I cannot hear you.
Neither can I. Sorry, Daniel. Can you hear us? Okay.
Be a microphone issue on
Okay.
Daniel's end, I guess.
If you do an audio test, Daniel, you can, when you speak, you should see the green bar move, and you should be able to select from several microphones that are.
Well, failing microphone, I guess you're able to communicate with us by chat.
How about this? While Daniel's struggling with his microphone, just a couple of suggestions. One, we could, we could dream up, Jacob, an exercise that everyone could do. Maybe it's exactly the same blue and red blocks that you've done here, and has Isla and Nick, would probably like to have the same challenge.
Sure. Sure.
So they can listen to your webcast, and then a challenge for everyone maybe we can define the challenge to use less to include nesting, variables, and mix-ins.
Sure. Great. And so, since we did box shadow for our example here, maybe we could try something else, like a gradient, which would be cool. Gradient is another great, using gradients. If you need a gradient rather than just a solid color background, that's a great candidate for mix-in because there are, to have full browser support, there are like 8 different lines that you would want to have in your CSS. And you can see here, this is enormous and ugly. So that's a prime candidate for using a mix-in.
Cool.
So how about this? Why don't we
Can you make a text file and just describe the assignment?
What we'll do is okay, really quick. Question from Dana: what's Sass? SASS. Sass is an alternative to less. Less and Sass are both sort of extensions, if you will, of CSS that make CSS easy to write. I think they do a lot of the same tricks. And they're both pretty popular. I would say I don't have any statistics off the top of my head, but I would say less and Sass are both probably pretty close to equally popular. We're using less for this for this series mostly because that's what I've used in the past, and that's what Bootstrap is built on. Although Bootstrap does have, I think, some Sass support now as well. If you're interested on your own time, certainly, I think a lot of the sort of principles that we're learning about in less will carry over to Sass, even if the particulars of the syntax and where the semicolons go and whatnot, might be different. I think, John, what we'll do for our exercise is, Bootstrap is great. I think what we'll do for our exercise is we'll share this HTML file and maybe our less file here as well. And the challenge will be to create a mix-in for a gradient. How about that? Oh, we want to work in
nesting and variables too.
Nesting and variables. Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we won't give you the actual less file. You can make your own, and it can look entirely different than what I've made here, and that's fine. So I guess in the future, I'll probably have this. We'll probably have this demo file hosted on GitHub or something like that. For now, let's see. Am I able to share a file with you guys through WebEx?
You are, Jacob. Let me.
file transfer. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, did that go across? Are you guys able to see that file?
Yeah, I see it.
I got it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, and let's specify our challenge. Let me write out our challenge in a text file.
Brent, can you manage putting this email together, which we're going to send to David, Isla, and Nick, who've missed this, and I suspect they would really like to do this exercise along with Daniel and Dana. Could you put all these files together and send me a proposed email that we can send to everyone who's been attending Jacob's last sessions? Great. Fantastic. Thank you, Brent. Jacob, while you're putting all that together, Daniel, I understood that you had done some work with Parallax. After Jacob finishes defining this exercise, any chance you could show us what you've been doing with Parallax? Great. Jacob, do you need a few minutes to?
I just shared a second file with everyone,
Okay.
which is just a text file. I think that are you guys able to see that?
No, I don't know where it is supposed to be. I don't see anything.
I didn't see it either, Jacob.
I'm not sure it's shared.
Okay, there was a. I tried to share that the same way I shared the HTML.
Oh, Brent got it.
Oh, Brent got it.
How do you open file transfer? Oh, I found it.
Okay.
It doesn't show it. Oh, now it does.
Okay, good. Yeah. So basically we it's very open-ended challenge. Just writes some less code to style our sample HTML. Do make sure you have the right file path to wherever you save your less file. I think I had styles / less demo.less, but you can, of course, you can change that to wherever or whatever you want. And then just the three, in some way use the three less tricks that we've learned about: nested rules, variables, and mixins. I put the link to the lesscss.org, where they have some good examples of each of those. And then for your mixins, of course, you can do whatever you want, but just suggestions for applications for your mixins. I thought gradients, background gradient is a great use of great opportunity to leverage mixins, or box shadows like we did in our example. And then there's that site, one of many sites. There are a lot of sites that sort of do what that CSS-matic site does, where they sort of automatically generate that code for you.
How would you do that without CSS? You have to use JPEGs to do gradients. Is that the case?
Gradient, yeah. Without CSS, there's no
good way to do that. There's no HTML that does that.
Really, even with CSS, it's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good way. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better if you're using less or Sass,
right?
Because you can have that mess of code in one spot.
Yeah.
And then.
And they give you a nice front end tool to.
Yeah, the front end tool to is really great.
Yeah.
Cool. I actually this gradient tool, I think, has a lot of features, but I'm finding it to be a little bit confusing as to what exactly, how exactly to get what I would want. It's there have been other gradient tools that I've liked better, but they all do roughly the same thing.
Cool. Okay, Brent, do we have enough information to define this exercise clearly and concisely to, I think there are many, even some that haven't been attending.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That is correct. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I guess for the time we have left this morning,
Daniel has been working on something, Jacob.
that's right. Yeah, let's whenever
Daniel, we can pass you the ball. Jacob, thank you. I think this was a great way to wind down, whatever, the whole presentation of Less. It's clear that Less is a great simplifying tool. What's next while Daniel's setting up, Jacob? What do you propose? Is there a project we could do that would incorporate some of these, some of these great tricks you've been teaching, not only for divs, CSS, but even PHP and MySQL? Any thoughts about?
For starters, I think it would be fun to, maybe we could build a web page kind of from the ground up.
Yeah.
And there's a million different things we could build. But I think it would be great as we did that, if we incorporated not just our own less from scratch, but actually used Bootstrap. So we can see how these tricks kind of work.
Beautiful.
Really well with Bootstrap.
Beautiful. A team effort. Let's define a page for the Build It Yourself website.
Yeah.
It'll maybe for investors or for some specific. Brent, you and I will talk about this in our Tuesday meeting, and then we'll pass that on to you, Jacob, for your approval before we put it in the agenda for next week. Great. I love that idea. Let's make a section of the website that incorporates all these tricks and is developed by the intern so they can point to it in their portfolio.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe even the team page. We've kind of been working on that.
I was going to say that team page, which I think I was supposed to upload that at one point, and I'm not sure I ever got that done. But we could do that now, and it'll be better than it was before. So.
Good. Okay, Daniel, are you all set? You have the ball, Daniel. Just share your screen. Good.
Hi.
We can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I think it was a problem with my headphones. It was, I don't know what it was happening. But okay, so now this is Parallax. And right now I'm using the jQuery version, in which you can use, jQuery to make everything simple and easier. And so, well, you have to import the script from Parallax, and this folder is right here, deploy, and there it is. And also, well, I have to import jQuery so that everything works. Then you create a script, and well, this is a selector, and from jQuery syntax. So you say, well, from the ID scene. So you can see here, this one has ID scene, and I think, okay, it's only this one, the UL, and this thing is from there to until here. Okay. So then you say, well, this is going to be a parallax
Daniel, excuse me 1 second.
So we can call it like that.
Can you hear me, Daniel?
Yeah.
1 second. Yeah. In the interest of showing this to others who haven't attended, can you show us, first of all, the result, and then show us the code that makes that result? In other words, can you show us the browser screen that has a shifting...
Okay, yeah.
Show that, and then, because Brent's recording this, so I think all of this code will make more sense if we see the browser result. Great. Perfect.
Okay. So this is the actual page. And well, this is in Spanish, but the interesting thing is this thing that is not really well organized. If you can see, I have the little button here and the text here. It is supposed to be that this text is going to be here, and this little button is going to be here. And well, with Parallax, you have this beautiful effect of, depth. So you have an element. Here's one div. I think it's a div. No, it's a button. But the other one is an H1. Yeah. So this one has, I think, well, how can I say it? Well, you have layers, okay? And every layer, it has a different data depth, like this one. And with this little thing, you specify how, how far away from the user is the layer. So so that is, it's far. I'm sick. I'm sorry. and and this one is closer. So you can see that if I move my mouse from this corner to the other one, the 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 first element is moving faster than the other one, thanks to that little effect. And well, the actual page is okay. Let me close this is this one, and this is the page without parallax. So you see it is static, and well, you have these little sections that you can get into it. But the idea is that you make into the user, and this effect is also applied with the cell phone. So when you are in your cell phone and you are in this page, you can have this same effect, but it's different applied because there it is moving with the oscilloscope, I think, well, all the, yeah, from your cell phone. So when you tilt your cell phone, you get this really smooth and nice effect. And well, I have to, make this to be really, beautiful and well positioned. But from the start, it is, I think it's looking great, even if it is, weird. That's, I don't really have more parallax. I'm having a little bit of experimenting thing with this. So, well, I think that's everything I have for now. So, can you still hear me?
Yes, and that's really cool. Thank you for showing that, Daniel.
Oh, thanks. Hey.
That's really neat.
Okay, so yeah. So this is my page. If anyone wants to see it, it's this one.
Fantastic, Danny. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, thank you.
I hope this summer we can include some of this in Invention Universe, huh?
It's a great idea. I think we can do beautiful stuff with this.
Yeah.
Invention Universe seems like a perfect application for parallax.
Right.
It's all that, it's exactly what you would, what we've already tried to do is sort of get that sort of effect where you have perspective and different stars moving at different rates and and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Great. Okay. Well, signing off.
Yeah.
Jacob, thank you. Daniel, thank you. Brent.
See you guys next time.
Good session. And next week we'll work on troubleshooting the exercise.
Okay.
Alrighty. Have a good week, guys.
All right. See
Thank
ya.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.